Hi, this is Jim Reavis, CEO of Cloud Security Alliance, and I hope you've been enjoying so far the sessions in September 2025. I'm excited because they don't always let me present at these, but I asked to have a session because I had a few things on my mind I wanted to talk about. I hope you enjoy what I have to present. This presentation, I'm calling it Mastering AI-Centric Cloud Security with CSA as your partner. And what I'm going to do is talk about just a lot that I'm learning in terms of being out with enterprises that are dealing with all of the cloud and AI technology issues, talking to entrepreneurs and researchers that are building new things, talking to different governments around the world, just talking to my community of friends and experts. And we're in this very interesting point where it's clearly a generational shift in technology and what we're doing and how we're doing it. It's no less and probably more significant than mainframe to PC and PC to client server and then to the internet. And then to cloud computing, compute as a utility. And so I hope that you're taking this opportunity in your career. I think it's very important for the last couple of years and definitely the next couple of years ahead to do all you can to find new ways to learn, to keep on top of things, to understand the implications of what you read in the news every day and see online. And so I guess my opening statement, and this is something I'm going to close with as well, that I think is just really important for you to maybe digest this and understand this, is that it's my belief that cybersecurity professionals need to be the top AI experts in their respective organizations. You have to be more of an expert than even the people that might be building these systems, and maybe you're creating your own LLM, you're fine tuning, you're distilling to have it work with your own systems, your own data. But there's so much that happens. There's so many variables that are the result of this being a predictive type of technology, and something that we find that even the scientists that invent it can't always explain the emergent behaviors that happen with generative AI. And so it's the cybersecurity professionals that really need to know so much that they can provide the best guidance on how to manage the risks and safe ways to accelerate any organization's adoption of this to solve business problems. So I hope you take that to heart. And a important part of doing this is to not be so far in the camp of AI is bad or AI is great. There's something in the middle that we need to be in terms of being situational and understanding it from a very practical level. So, but in any case, if we think about where this might be going, if you think about in that not too distant future, that AI is certainly going to do a lot of good things. You're already seeing a lot of people using this for their own personal health and being able to see how they are getting like more accurate diagnoses or analysis of their own health. But let's assume that's going to happen and that we're going to see so many cures happen and our healthcare being so much better. So many of maybe the dangerous and the drudgery and a lot of jobs are going to be replaced by more fulfilling work. There's always, I think, some delays in how some of this happens. So I'm not at all discounting disruption that happens, but you can imagine a lot of good happening to the world and a lot of benefits to humanity. So what do cybersecurity people do? We also think about all the malicious actions that are going to be happening. And just one you could imagine is, hey, there's a big data breach, a malicious hacker. It's got a big file of people whose information has been breached. They can go out and they can build a complete profile of every breached person. They can clone like the voice, the image of the style of every person that person is connected to, maybe in social media or that they know. You're almost building a virtual world surrounding that breached person. And they can go launch this attack on every single one of those people and then get it all done in 5 minutes. I mean, sounds pretty crazy, but that's the attack of the 50-foot chatbot, or that's what AI said when I asked them to characterize this malicious action. So it's up to us. It's the cybersecurity leaders. We've got our biggest challenge. Everything we've been doing up till now has been practice. So let's see how we can handle this. In the last 8 months, maybe a little bit more, it's been a lot that's happening that's really redefined AI. So the idea of large language models going from this one-shot answer to reasoning and chain of thought and being multimodal, that's been a big difference. And that's had a lot of change in the capabilities and hallucinations and reducing that, and also creating some better sort of inherent guardrails in the LLMs. You see as a result that in certain math tests and other things, passing the bar, that some of them, they're starting to pretty rapidly approach the top experts in a lot of these different areas through the benchmarks that are used to measure them. So we saw from China DeepSeek coming earlier this year, and this sort of rise of open source, open weight, I think is very significant, but also showing that there's a lot of optimizations that we can do in the algorithm and how these work, and having the models have several models that coordinate, some finely tuned and some more general models. So it's going to be very interesting. Now, DeepSeek, some of the things were quite overstated in how cheaply it was done. That was a little bit of mischaracterization, but still very, very interesting there. So it's hard to say like what the Moore's law for models looks like, but the cost to train and the efficiencies there, it's definitely, we've seen a couple of orders of magnitude for this. So vibe coding, I know that's a phrase that a lot of people aren't happy with. They don't like that characterization. And it is not like you can just go describe an application you want and you get a full enterprise application built. There's a lot more to it. That's great for prototyping, but even a lot of very experienced developers that I know, they are able to do some pretty interesting things like, hey, can I have AI set up the entire environment and some unique characteristics of maybe I want to have this work in a specific platform, and then I'll do some of the interesting things. And it's a huge time saver in that, but it is definitely changing the face of software development. There's no doubt about that. So one of the things that I think it's clear in 2025 is we have seen the world sort of make this decision. I wouldn't say everybody is on board with it, but I think people understand this is the reality where we're at, is that we're in this high stakes nation state AGI race. How are we going to get to artificial general intelligence? And that's the compute and the energy, the data and the talent. And so that's critically important. And so we're talking about using AI a lot more. It's this huge build out, and we're going to see where that goes. And it's very important that we have guardrails in place. So then the economic uncertainty here, there's been some questions about, are we seeing jobs reports? If they're not the best jobs reports, are those indications of an AI influence? And so that's all something we're all going to continue to look at. In the long run, I think we're going to see a lot more jobs created by AI than it would take away. But again, timing is everything. And then definitely the rise of agentic AI is something that we're seeing a lot of, that sort of autonomous version of AI, which is really what we need to get to sort of that ultimate goal of this being as efficient as possible. I asked one of the frontier models, like, can you give me sort of this current way of thinking about AI and where it's at? And so those were sort of the images, and kind of took some of my text and changed a little bit. But yes, there are bubble sorts of activities right now in terms of valuations and salaries you hear about, and sort of constrained AI experts. There is going to be a reckoning of that, because some organizations have put down investments that they need a return on in potentially a short amount of time. So I understand the bubble side of this, and maybe it's not as easy to go implement everything. There's a learning curve, but in the long run, it's actually going to be much bigger than the bubble we're seeing today. It's going to change everything. Another way of sort of characterizing and thinking about this is AI is oil. And I don't mean that literally in terms of oil creates maybe energy that you could use to power AI, but I mean, think about petroleum is something that is refined to make a lot of different products, including a lot of the devices and the clothes we wear and everything else, in addition to energy to power vehicles. And I think AI is very much the same. And I think it's important to understand this because there ends up being a lot of focus on, I think, exclusive focus on the very largest AI companies and what they're doing, and thinking if we solve the security problem, the governance problem, the guardrails problem with them, that's the solution. And I think that's a mistaken belief. I think so much of the innovation, so much of the business solutions are going to come by other companies. Maybe they got domain knowledge in a specific industry. They're going to be refining this AI, this intelligence created by these intelligence factories. And in the same way, all of those different actors in this story, they are going to be part of the security solution on the good side and on the bad side. So it's really important to understand that full shared responsibility we all have. So another thing, a term I heard, artificial jagged intelligence. I think I heard that first from Sundar Pichai from Google. And that sort of describes this way in which AI can be simultaneously very good and maybe a top math performer in the world. On the other hand, you ask it to count the number of R's in strawberry and it fails. And so for me, this is sort of the test and the example for the cybersecurity professionals is that we don't want you to ignore the fact that it fails counting the number of R's in strawberry. But on the other hand, we don't want to use that as justification for not using all of the features of AI that work very well. So I think that's for all of us to sort of understand. And that's why I think for a very long time, AI is going to be a very important business assistant to humans. And it's not replacing humans, it's augmenting what we can do. And so that's why it's very important for cybersecurity professionals to really understand that, get the very best out of AI and mitigate the risks and minimize all of those failures that happen. Another thing I hear about a lot is, hey, is this always going to be generative AI? Is this the right version of it? There's people talk about, hey, it's just a statistical algorithm, and it's something that is not really human, and that's why it's called artificial AI. But it's possible to think about, hey, the scaling that seems to have made it work very well. Will it always be scaling LLMs? Could there be other things? There's talk of world models that have an understanding of the world and the physical world and all of that. And I think we should all be open-minded about where this is all going. But that's how I think about it. And it's again, be sort of centered and don't be moving so quickly in one area or another to love everything about AI or hate everything about AI. As I mentioned, Agentic is just a key area here. And again, this autonomous actions, take a sensor and then have it with the guardrails in place and the business instructions, have it, the LLM take certain actions. This is really where you get a lot of the benefits and really do things like understand what does the customer really want in a way that you could never do at scale. You could never have enough people that could talk to all of your customers simultaneously. There's a lot of things that are happening. Again, it's still very early. It looks like model context protocol is becoming the framework standard for how agents and tools work together and how you get the value out of enterprise applications and all the internet services that are available. So be tracking Agentic for sure. Overall, we see that the guardrails, like they're under duress what we've built right now. And I've just heard there's like copyright issues where we've got maybe a settlement on one of them related to books, but there's a lot of questions about how we handle intellectual property and probably new copyright laws, but it's creating a lot of questions. And that creates like issues that CISOs have in terms of how they try to think about how do we do all the right things? How do we comply? How do we understand like what that means when there's a lot of law that was really not thought as being applicable to AI or didn't even have any understanding that AI would exist when they were written. And so how do we interpret those things? So lots of innovation, hackers are out there, worry about data leakage, worry about these compliance things, worry about all of the ethical issues. And so it's really something that CISOs are juggling with right now. Some key priorities that I've heard from large enterprises is like this just sort of goes across all of the different areas they're concerned about. But definitely for all of these things I've talked about, responsible and secure generative AI adoption, that's a top priority. Understanding again that cloud security can provide a lot of the identity, the access control, the provisioning, the resilience. It's really important understanding how cloud security is that infrastructure backbone. Understanding how we can do this at scale, automation, that ends up being super important. So some of the other areas are like how we think about how DevOps is evolving. And we've talked about shift left, and is shift left even feasible here now, and how we need to think about that. But definitely thinking about the AI model, lifecycle security, where is that going? What are some of the best sort of strategies for thinking about that? As I mentioned, zero trust is something that's super important. This is something that we've been working on a lot at CSA. And how do we really think about zero trust in a very AI native way? Like, how do we think about sort of minimizing the access AI agents have to the things that they really only need? Data becomes really important. You know that there's so much hunger for data and new data and getting past synthetic data that becomes really important to think about. How do we protect that? How do we make sure things that are really critical for us, that we can keep those inside of our organization and not be training all the systems with these? So then a few more like that are priorities. Again, everything relates to AI, but third-party supply chain risk expansion, systemic risk becomes so important. The global versus regional standards, and especially for multinational organizations, understand how can we show like data sovereignty and keep information in a certain country or protect those things that relate to a specific citizenry. So, and with all of this, how do we get our cybersecurity workforce, which again is something I've talked about already, is how do we make sure that we are the leaders, we're ready, and that not only are we ready to lead with AI, but we're using AI to have us lead with the rest of our sort of traditional security activities. So at CSA, with our AI safety initiative that you've heard about, I'm certain, we feel like we've got a strong leadership position in putting together a real comprehensive amount of research that's both technical, governance oriented, controls based, and help you manage the different risks that are out here. So you can go check it out, go to cloudsecurityalliance.ai. But one of the things that I encourage organizations to do is, with your chat solution that you prefer, you can set up or you can create different chat bots, however you'd want to do this. Train them on all of our data. We make it freely available, and we certainly have no issues with any of this. But take all of our white papers, take our AI controls matrix, take all of our questionnaires, and go like learn prompt engineering and have the types of conversations you need to just go see what sort of custom tuned advice. Not asking you, not suggesting that you use this as sort of your complete roadmap, but it's very good to sort of align when you are speaking with your team members, when you're speaking with external consultants, experts out there, to see like, how does this align with what we think we need to do? And it minimally fills in a lot of gaps, and you can really do some really specific things with it. And I've been playing around with this myself, and here's one example. If a company was like really wanting to start doing agentic AI and they needed a roadmap, and hey, I'm also in the European Union, you could also give it more context on industry and even specific countries, that you can get some pretty good information. And again, using the different CSA research here and being able to sort of understand what it is that you're asking for with a really good prompt, you can get a lot of information, and it can be referenced with the specific AI papers. You could even have, for each one of these areas, you could put the specific AI controls matrix, control specifications that relate to that. So there's a lot of opportunities here to like really have this research go to work for you. So another thing just wanted to mention is that we have our trusted AI safety expert, our new educational curriculum for AI that will be released next month in October. And so you can go check out, get some basic information here, but this is something we've been building through collaboration with Northeastern University. Real excited about it. And I'm excited about how we're going to produce this and deliver this to you, a combination of some real evergreen principles that aren't going to change a lot that you learn in maybe somewhat traditional courseware, and then prompt libraries for beginners, intermediate, and advanced cybersecurity professionals that will take any module's evergreen principles and learning objectives and translate that into current exercises and current learning for you. And we think the way we structured this, that it will stay current with new models as they're introduced. And so we're real excited about that. We hope you check it out. So another area that you're going to have to tune in to us again next month for our AI summit, but we're thinking a lot about how you secure the AI control plane. And this is the very agentic, but what are all the different things that we need to do? Payments, agentic payments, that's going to be a big deal. We've come up with something called capabilities-based risk assessment to understand how levels of autonomy, levels of sensitive information that you have access to, how that can gear you in doing the right amount of risk assessment activities. Securing, I'll have a little bit more about the model context protocol and what we need to do there. We're going to take some different approaches. We're going to open it up to the community, do lots of pilots, let you sort of vibe research, if you will. And so we're really excited about all these different areas to provide some really practical research white papers, but also some practical tools. So an example of that, something that's really early that a lot of you may not know about this, is just a few weeks ago, we released this Model Context Protocol Security Resource Center. So again, MCP, that's sort of the glue on how agents are going to talk to other systems and talk to other agents. And so we've already done some work to come up with top 10 MCP server risks, client risks, but also some tools to go discover MCP servers, to actually go scan them and audit them, to go implement operational guardrails, some secure by default templates. So some really good tools. Encourage you to go check that out. And also we've got some databases, so we can do that public audit results, put that in public databases, vulnerability databases. I think we're going to see, and there's some work that's happening here, but I think you all understand that we're going to need to do things more with CVE, CWE types of weakness enumeration and vulnerabilities, and looking that we have the right ecosystem that matches where AI is going. So you can go check that out. There's a big sort of URL there, and there's a tiny URL one. That's what YKUUM7XD. So there, I read it for you. You've probably seen that we have our AI controls matrix out. I've done a couple presentations on this. So if you're not staying current, one thing to be aware of is that we just released the ISO 42001 mappings. And so that's going to be really important for where we're going next. So we encourage you to go check that out. We think that the ISO 42001, which is the ISO standard for an AI management system, but it's not security specific, that it is complemented very nicely by the AI controls matrix mapping. So you have this portfolio of very operational controls that you can implement throughout the life cycle of your AI systems, whether you're just implementing them or you're operating them. So it's really, really important there. The AI cake, this is our consensus assessments initiative questionnaire. This is something that if you are any sort of an AI company or a SaaS company using AI, you should certainly be very familiar with this, because as I'll talk about a little bit later, there's going to be some opportunities for you to share that information with others. And important thing, one of the most important things, and I guess I talked about this a little bit when I characterized AI as oil, and it's got to be refined, and there's too much focus on a small number of organizations as sort of holding the keys to humanity in how they are able to make AI safe and prevent catastrophic risks. But it's really more a shared security responsibility model. And that's something that we've defined, probably not perfectly in our first pass at this, but I think in a way that's a lot more comprehensive and thoughtful than you've seen anywhere else, in terms of looking at the different stakeholders, from large foundation models to cloud providers to this orchestration layer to SaaS applications to enterprises using this. It becomes really important that we understand all of those different actors. And so this is something that we have sort of constitutionalized in the AI controls matrix. And it's something that I think would be very helpful for you as you're trying to understand the AI journey in your organization, whatever it is, because you know every organization you're going to be working with in the future is also going to be using AI, and maybe using it with your information. So on that note, what I wanted to talk about here a little bit is that Star for AI is this project it's coming very soon, where we're adapting our existing Star Security Trust and Assurance and Risk program that includes this registry and third-party assessment, this broad program. We are adapting it for AI beyond just cloud providers. And as we mentioned, we've got our AI controls matrix. We've launched this trustworthy AI pledge. We've launched our validated, which is our LLM-based scoring system for assessments, to give you some richer information than just whatever has been asserted by a cloud provider, soon to be an AI provider. And that next you're going to see the validated be able to operate on the AI version of Cake. We plan on doing that in October. And then also having a provisional Star Level 2. So if you've done an ISO 42001 certification and you are able to get an assessment validated, we are providing you this Star Level 2 third-party assessment version, which is a greater level of trust. So a lot of work going on here. We're pretty excited about all of that. And you can continue to follow us at our website, cloudsecurityalliance.ai, cloudsecurityalliance.org/star, and be able to check out all of these things. So I really want to just sort of circle back, and I can see I didn't fix the fonts here, but what I wanted to tell you is that, again, it's really important that cybersecurity professionals, they should be the top experts in their organization as it relates to AI. Advise the organization, advise the company, manage the risks, and let's provide the right guidance beyond what anyone else is able to do. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I've enjoyed giving it. I'd love to hear your feedback on any questions you have, any follow-up you'd like from me, anything else you'd like for us to cover. So thanks, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.